Alright, so for the first exercise, we need to find the function evaluated at -1. So all we do is plug in -1 for x. So it's going to be -2 times -1 squared plus 4. And then if you don't mess up the algebra, you'll get -2 plus 4, which equals 2. So the answer is D. Number 2, you ask for the domain of this radical function. So you have to remember that the domain of a radical function is given by all the possible x's. Since 5 minus x is underneath the radical, we must have that quantity 5 minus x is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so then if I add x to both sides, I'll get that 5 greater than or equal to x, or in other words, x is less than or equal to 5. And in interval notation, this means -infinity to 5 bracket. The bracket is because we have the equal sign in here. So then the answer will be D. Alright, number 3, the number of plants present in a savanna is declining. So at the rate 2 plants per month. Start with the 100 plants. Create an equation for the number of plants present after t years, not after each month. So we have to pay attention here. So we know that this is a linear equation. So it's basically n of t equals mx or mt plus b. Okay. But m, the slope, is going to be negative because it says it's declining at a rate 2 plants per month. So 2 minus 2 plants per month but we are asked to find the formula for t where t is in years, so we need to find if it's minus 2 plants per month, that will be minus 2 times 12 plants per year. So the actual slope is -24. Alright, so then this will be n of t equals minus 24t plus b. B is how much you started with at the beginning. It's the y-intercept when t is 0. Well, it says in here that we started with 100 plants. So it'll be plus 100. Alright, so then n of t, write this nicely, it's 100 minus 24t. And the answer is D. E. Which of the following is the vertex of the parabola given by this? Well, you need to remember the formula for a parabola in vertex form is y equals a times x minus h everything squared plus k, where the vertex is h, the x-coordinate of the vertex is h, and the y-coordinate of the vertex is k. So in our case, we have x plus 4, so rewrite this y equals -3. Instead of x plus 4, I'll write it as x minus -4 plus 7. So this means that my h is -4 and then my k is 7. So the vertex is -4, 7. So the answer will be C. Which is true about the function graph below? Below means next page. F is increasing. Okay, so the function itself is increasing. You see how the y values are increasing. When x is 4, y is 2. When x is 6, y is 2 point something. So the function itself is increasing. But what about the average rate of change? What is the average rate of change doing? Well, remember that the average rate of change is the slope between two numbers. So if you look at the average rate of change between 1 and 2, is the slope between those two numbers. But then if you look at another average rate of change between 2 and 3, this is another slope. And then if you look at another one between 3 and 4, this is another one. So you notice that these slopes are positive, but they are decreasing. There's less inclination, right? So that means that the answer is f is increasing with a decreasing average rate of change. Next question, use the discriminant to determine the number of real solutions. So you have to remember that the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. If you don't know this stuff, then it's going to be hard to guess or do anything like that. So b is 2, so it'll be 2 squared minus 4 times a is -1 and c is -10. So now this will give you 4 minus 40. This is -36. So now you also have to remember that when the discriminant is less than 0, so the discriminant is -36 is less than 0, that's when we have complex solutions. So no real solution. So the number of real solution is none. Solve the quadratic equation. You have to recognize that you have to work on it a little bit. So we're going to distribute the 2x. So this is going to be 2x squared plus 12x, and then add the 1 and equals 0. And now you can either factor it or, well, you can't really factor it. So you get a hint in here that they're not rationals. So we're going to use the quadratic formula. So it's going to be -b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Alright, so b is 12. So it'll be -12 plus or minus 12 squared, which is 144, minus 4 times a is 2 and c is 1. 2 times 2. So then this will give us -12 plus or minus square root of 144 minus 8, 136, square root of 136 over 4. And then you look and see that none of these answers are like that, so chances are you got to work it out a little more. So -12 plus or minus, let's reduce 136. And you should get a hint since you have 34 or 38. See if 136 divides into, if 34 goes into 136. So let's see. 136 divided by 34 is 4. So that's good. So then I can write 136 as 4 times 34. And then distribute the radical, so it'll be square root of 4, which is 2, and then square root of 34. And we still are not done, so we're gonna factor out a 2. So all I have left from -12 is a -6 plus or minus square root of 34 over 4. And then reduce, so this is 1 and this is a 2, so the answer will be -6 plus or minus square root of 34 over 2. Let's see. Alright, next one, it says if 6 log x equals 12, then we have that x equals what? Well, let's just solve this log equation. So remember, we have to isolate the log x one. So first what I'll do is divide by 2. So I'll get log x equals 12 divide by 6, sorry. 12 divided by 6, which is 2. So now I'm going to write this in exponential form. Remember, the base, if it's not there, it means it's 10. So this in exponential form is 10 to the power 2 equals x. Okay, so x is 10 to the 2, which is 100. So the answer is B. Next, solve the quadratic equation. Write the complex solutions in standard form. So we might get complex solutions for this one. So let's see. So again, the quadratic formula. So that's going to be -1 plus or minus square root of 1 minus 4 times 3 times 3 over 2 times 3. So it's -1 plus or minus 1 minus square root of -35 over 6. And remember that square root of -35 is I square root of 35 over 6. So the answer would be this one, if you just distribute the -1/6 and then plus or minus. So for this one, you gotta, number 10, you gotta recognize some of these functions. So no matter what the input is, the output is 8. So this one is just a horizontal line at y equals 8. So this is not linear. So you're looking for stuff that is squared. -2 squared is not 4. -1 squared is not -1, so this one won't work either. This one, -2 squared is 4, -1 squared, so this one is quadratic. Or if you want, you can put it in your calculator if you have time. You can put these in your calculator. If you don't, you go to Stat, Edit, and then you put in the x's in list 1 and the y's in list 2, and then you plot it to see the shape. Okay, which of the following is true about abstract linear functions? So abstract means that the input doesn't have a meaning, like it doesn't represent time or dollars or products. So the graph of an abstract linear function, it's going to be a line, and remember, a line can be like this with positive slope, or it could be like this, we just saw one, or it could be with negative slope like that, right? This is a linear function. There is no other one. So let's look at these and see if these are true. The domain of a linear function is 0 to infinity. No, the domain can be negative. The domain is -infinity to infinity. So this one is not true. All abstract linear functions have an x-intercept. Well, notice that the green one doesn't. So this one is false as well. The slope of an abstract linear function can be 0. Well, notice that the slope for the green one is 0. There is no change in y. So this one is true. So I'm pretty much done because I found that this is the true one. All right, next. Which of the following is true about this graph? So the function is increasing on -10 to 10. Well, so let's see, from -10 the function is actually increasing, but from 0 to 10 the function is decreasing, so this one is not true. The function is positive from -infinity to 0. Well, notice that there's this portion right here that it's negative, so this one is false. The domain is all real numbers, so this one is false. The range is -infinity to 10. Yeah, I noticed that there's no function after 10. So the range, it starts all the way down here at -infinity, but it stops at 10. So the answer is D. Which of the following is true about the graph? So you have a parabola and b squared minus 4ac is less than 0. The discriminant is less than 0. Well, that means that there are two complex solutions, so there are no x-intercepts. So basically, you just got to remember those rules. So this is the case. Okay, so this is when the discriminant is less than 0. This is when the discriminant equals 0. And then something like this is when the discriminant is positive. Alright, the table below shows the average miles per gallon. Alright, and it says to find the best fit linear model. So you got to go to your calculator. and put in these values. Okay, so once you have the values in, you have to go to Stat, Calc, and you're going to do linear regression. I have my x in list 1, y in list 2, and I'm just going to click Calculate. So this is going to give me that the slope is negative 7.89 and that the y-intercept is 47.8. So negative 7.89, 47.87. So it's going to be between D and B. But then you're asked to predict the approximate miles per gallon of a vehicle weighing 3.5 tons and whether that represents interpolation or extrapolation. So you will get, when you plug in 3.5 for x, you'll get 20.26. Now you got to decide if it's interpolation or extrapolation. Or 3.5 will be somewhere in between, so this means it's interpolation. So if it was something on the outside greater than 4.36 or less than 1.915, that would mean it's extrapolation. Number 15, the owner of a certain phone case factory calculates the cost in dollars to produce X phone cases, and this is the function. Find the slope. Well, you know the slope right away. The slope is whatever X is multiplied by, and the total cost to produce 100 phone cases. So when you plug in 100, so you're actually calculating the cost for 100, 350 plus 10.75 times 100, it will give you 350 plus 10.75 times 100, 1425. So then the slope is 10.75. C. Alright, next find g composed with f of x. So g composed with f of x is basically going to be the function g evaluated at f of x, and f of x is 3x plus 4. So now you go into the g function, and anywhere where you see x, you'll put 3x plus 4. So it's going to be instead of, so this is the function g. So instead of x squared, you're going to have 3x plus 4 squared and minus 2. And now you calculate this. So this is going to be 9x squared plus 24x plus 16 and then minus 2. So if you don't know how I got this, you just FOIL this or use the formula. Alright, so this is 9x squared plus 24x, and then 16 minus 2 is plus 14. So it looks like none of these is the answer. Which of the following function represents a one-to-one function? Remember that a one-to-one function has to pass the horizontal line test. So if I draw a horizontal line test, you'll see that there is a y value, negative 5 and 5 has the same y value. So this is not a one-to-one. Two x's share the same y, so this one is not one-to-one. Y equals x squared plus 2016. Well, you know that this is a parabola like this, and this does not pass the horizontal line test as well. And then you know that this is a line, a horizontal line going through 4, right? Because no matter what x is, the output is 4, and this does not pass the horizontal line test. So none of these are one-to-one. Which is true about this power function? So for these ones, don't really have to remember the shapes. So you're just gonna play around if you don't remember the shapes. Obviously I remember the shapes, but let's pretend that I don't. So I'm gonna go into Y, and I'm gonna clear this. So let's see. let's see if let's put 3 for k, and then x to the power. For p, let's put a -3 as well. And then when I graph it, well, I gotta change my window. See the window, it has -4 to 4. So go to the window, -4 to 4, and then the y, -3 to 3. Now graph it. Well, you see that it looks almost like the one. The only thing that is different is that I have graph here and here. And so what if I change, well, what if I change the exponent to 4? Well, that changed the graph totally, so I don't want to change the exponent. So I'm going to leave the exponent as 3, and then I'm going to change k. So k, the value of k is negative. Well, let's make it negative. So let's put -3. Alright, so this is exactly the kind of graph we have. So then if you look in here, you notice that k is -3, so k is negative, and then p is negative and odd. So the value of p is odd, is negative, so all of these are true. The function, this is a rational function, and the vertical asymptote is whenever the denominator is 0. So x plus 9 equals 0 gives you that x equals -9. So this is the vertical asymptote. So the answer would be that. Oh, no, it's not that. See, I would have lost some points in here because it's x equals -9. So the answer is none of these. All right, the formula for the volume of a right cylinder is given by this. If the radius is tripled, so in this formula, instead of the radius right here, I'm gonna have 3 times that, so it's gonna be 3r. Okay, so you'll see that the only thing that changes is that the radius is going to be squared in here, but you have this 3 squared. So basically, guys, that's how much it changes by. 3 squared is 9, so the volume is going to be multiplied by a factor of 9.